Hello, and welcome back to another breaking news update. My name is Jimmy Boyd, and you were watching Boyd News. I want to thank you so much for tuning in today. I'm back with some more updates coming out from the war between Russia and Ukraine, and I've got lots of big news to share with you today. So, over the past couple weeks, I've been letting you guys know that Ukraine has been warning that Russia's going to launch a new offensive in the south in the Zaporizhzhia region. We've been hearing that for a few weeks now. We have a report that just came out today from RBC Ukraine that states that Russia's going to launch an offensive very soon in the Zaporizhzhia region and also the Kherson region. Now, we haven't heard that before, but it looks like Russia could be potentially launching an offensive in both of these regions, as currently right now Russia does not control the entirety of either of them. They could be launching this offensive to try to gain control of both of these territories. Now, these are in southern Ukraine. And also, RBC Ukraine is also reporting that on December 5th, this is when this could begin, okay? So this is literally in just a few days from now that we could be hearing that Russia has now launched their offensive in the south. And this could be very bad for Ukraine because think about Ukraine right now on the Eastern Front. They're not doing too well. The Russians have been gaining some territory over the last couple months. And it all started right around the time where Ukraine launched their offensive into the Kursk region of Russia. Now, originally, when Ukraine launched their offensive into the Kursk region, they gained somewhere around 12 to 1,300 kilometers of territory. I think they're down to somewhere around 800 kilometers is what we last reported. So they definitely have lost some territory up there, but they're still holding on strong, and they're trying to hold on to that territory before Donald Trump gets into office and before they start negotiating with Russia. So we're going to talk more about the Kursk region today as well. But I definitely want to discuss what's going on down in the south because this could be very bad for Ukraine if this new front opens up. Would Ukraine be able to hold the Russians back, or is this going to be a very difficult situation for Ukraine? I think either way, it's going to be hard. So we're going to talk more about that today. And also, what you see here on your screen, this is Olaf Scholz, the German chancellor. He arrived in a visit to Kiev today. And this was an unexpected visit. He just kind of surprised Kiev and showed up out of nowhere. So we're going to talk about that today as he announced a 650 million euro aid package for Ukraine. So we'll talk about those details. Also, the U.S. announcing a $725 million aid package for Ukraine as well. Then numerous other things that I want to share with you guys in regards to this war. So we're going to go ahead and start jumping into the news here. Let's start off talking about this story of this offensive that's coming. Now, this article is very long. We're not going to go over the entire thing. We'll just kind of show some of this to you guys. I will cite it down below in the description, as I always do. Anytime we show articles from mainstream media, I always cite it down below in the description for you if you guys want to read the entirety of it, okay? So from RBC Ukraine, Russia preparing new offensive on Kherson and Zaporizhzhia, frontline overview and Putin's plans. And this just coming out today, December 2nd, 2024. Russia continues its offensive in various areas along the entire Eastern Front. At the same time, Moscow is preparing to intensify its offensive in the south. The RBC Ukraine explains what's happening on the battlefield and what Putin is planning. The Ukrainian military is unable to stop the Russian offensive at the front. The dynamics of Russia's advance since this fall are comparable only to the first half of 2022. Moscow's goal is to achieve maximum territorial gains and complicate Ukraine's situation as much as possible before President Trump's inauguration. Russia is exerting pressure on 7 fronts and has started fighting for 3 Ukrainian defense hubs in the east: Chasiv Yar, Kurakov, and Velika Novosilka. That's kind of a hard one to say. At the same time, Russia intends to intensify its activities in 2 more areas in the south, where relative stability has been maintained for more than a year. Okay, so again, this could get very difficult for Ukraine moving forward. I mean, how are they going to fight on all these fronts, especially when Ukraine is allocating so many resources up in the Kursk region right now just to maintain that territory? Lots of troops and equipment are over there right now. So what happens if Russia launches a major offensive, let's say with 50,000 or maybe 100,000? We've heard even upwards of 200,000 Russian troops could be ready for a major offensive in the south. Who knows if Ukraine is going to be able to hold this back. We'll have to see what happens here in the coming days. But we'll scroll all the way down here. Again, this is a very long article. But it states right here, now Ukrainian military is predicting that Russia may launch its offensive after December 5th. However, this date should not be considered the final date, as Moscow has postponed D-Day more than once before. Okay, so we don't know 100% if this is going to happen by December 5th, but the Ukrainian military is predicting that this is when it could start. Now, again, we've been hearing this for probably about 2 to 3 weeks now, that Russia's preparing to launch a major offensive in the south very soon in the Zaporizhzhia region. But now we know that not only the Zaporizhzhia region is going to come under attack, but also the Kherson region, which is right next door. Okay, so let's hop on over to X now. And I've got this report here from Max24. Russia may begin its offensive in the Zaporizhzhia region after December 5th. RBC Ukraine, citing sources, the occupiers may also carry out another operation, an offensive on Kherson, forcing Dnipro River. Okay, so this is just a little map that I wanted to pull up for you guys to show you the two regions that will come under attack. So they're definitely going to try to push for Kherson here, and probably try to push up and take over the entirety of the Kherson region. So again, we can kind of see that they don't control the entire thing. The red indicating Russia down here. This is where Ukraine holds up over here above the Dnipro River. And also Zaporizhzhia is going to be the new target for Russia as well. As we can see, they do not control the northern side of the Zaporizhzhia region. Obviously continues over here. This map's kind of cut off, but it shows the two regions that's going to come under attack, okay? Potentially, we know for sure that the Russians are gearing up for Zaporizhzhia, and also potentially Kherson as well, okay? So it's going to get very interesting over here as we move on. Okay, so also now we're going to move on to talk about these aid packages for Ukraine. So this first one's going to be regarding Germany, okay? As we know that Olaf Scholz arrived in Kiev today. So from War Translated Dmitry, upon arriving in Kiev, Scholz announced a new military aid package from Germany worth 650 million euros. According to a spokesman for the German Defense Ministry, German military aid will be delivered to Ukraine in December, Reuters reports. The package will also include Iris-T air defense systems, Leopard 1 tanks, attack drones, winter equipment, handguns, and heating equipment, and more. So from what I understand, they're also supposed to be receiving equipment for their electrical grid, which it does mention some heating equipment here, but they're supposed to be providing some stuff to help them out with their electrical grid, as their grid has been battered recently, just in the last month or so, from, I think it was 2 major strikes from Russian missiles that were striking their electricity grid. So that's some good news to hear. But also these Iris-T air defense systems, looks like Ukraine's going to be getting another one of these, and I think they'll have a total of 6, if I'm not mistaken. I believe this is the 6th one that will be delivered from Germany. Okay, also from Glasnost Gone, respect to Ukraine, they stole Russia's border post Kursk sign, seen during Ukraine's August invasion of Kursk, now seen hanging on a wall during President Zelensky and Olaf Scholz' inspection of smart unmanned systems of domestic and joint Ukrainian-German production. So here's some pictures, and up on the wall here you can see a sign that was taken from Kursk. It even has a bunch of holes in it, so they literally stole the sign from Kursk, put it inside of this this little auditorium here that shows all these different drones that are on display that Ukraine is working on right now. And we can see right here, here's the original sign that was taken inside of the Kursk region of Russia. This happened back towards the beginning when Ukraine moved into the Kursk region. So here's a couple more pictures. There's Olaf Scholz right there. Vladimir Zelensky checking out some of the other drones that they have. Here's one more photo as well, okay? So kind of funny to see that they had that on display inside of that auditorium. Okay, also from War Translated Dmitry, Scholz on Taurus missiles. As for individual systems, we are discussing whether to provide them or not. This concerns both the range and who can program them, said German Chancellor Olaf Scholz. Okay, so we know for months now that Olaf Scholz come out many times, said they will never send these Taurus missiles over to Ukraine. I'm sure the talk of that was brought up at some point, and this apparently was his response, okay? So they're still looking into it, apparently, at least according to him, and they're trying to figure out who's going to program them to fire them, as, you know, maybe they don't want to be involved with this war and put the risk of Germany, or put German citizens at risk if they fire these into Russia, and then maybe Russia wants to retaliate on Germany. Looks like that is definitely a worry for Olaf Scholz. But again, Olaf Scholz has been very harsh on Ukraine in terms of sending these over, that he really does not want to do it, okay, is what it seems like. So most likely Taurus missiles won't go to Ukraine anytime soon, until he potentially leaves from his position very soon. Okay, also from Bliskovka, The U.S. plans to provide an additional $725 million in military aid to Ukraine, according to the Associated Press. The package will include anti-drone systems, anti-personnel mines, and ammunition for HIMARS. However, it is unclear whether this ammunition is the long-range ATACMS missiles that Ukraine has requested for strikes deep into Russia. Wouldn't surprise me if they are getting more ATACMS. We haven't really seen too many attacks inside of Russia recently using long-range missiles, so they probably will be getting more of these at some point. So it looks like a $725 million package again going to Ukraine. And we're supposed to be hearing that almost every single week. I think there's going to be an aid package going to Ukraine. They're going to be boosting those numbers every week to give Ukraine as much supplies as possible before Biden gets out of office, is kind of what the Biden administration has reported. So expect to hear more packages every single week going to Ukraine. Also from Max 24, we lack trained and equipped brigades. Of the 14 we agreed on, only 2 are ready. We need at least 10. This is why the Russians are advancing in the east, says Zelensky. The Russian armed forces are faced with the task of pushing the AFU out of Kursk and entering the territory of the Sumy region, he said. Okay, so we've been hearing a lot about this in terms of brigades that are not ready. That we even heard recently that Ukraine was working on equipping 10 brigades, but apparently they only received enough equipment from the West, in terms of weapons, to equip only 2 brigades out of 10, okay? And that's why he's complaining, saying that they don't have enough brigades that are equipped with the appropriate weapons to defend themselves and go into battle. That was something that Zelensky said just the other day. And him also mentioning that obviously the Russians are trying to push Ukraine out of the Kursk region right now. I've got a few updates coming out from Kursk as well. Max 24, Kursk region, the main task facing us is to hold the maximum territory until Trump's inauguration and the start of negotiations, Ukrainian soldiers said, in order to exchange it for something later, no one knows what, according to the BBC. Here's the report that came out on that. So whenever we think about this new offensive that could be coming in the south, in the Zaporizhzhia region, and also Kherson, if these 2 regions get heavily attacked, is that going to make Ukraine have to pull out of the Kursk region? I think it could be likely. We know that Ukraine wants to hold on to the Kursk region as much as they possibly can for leverage. So imagine if a major attack is launched in the south, and at the same time, the Eastern Front has been slowly collapsing over the last couple months. Pretty much since right around the time the Ukraine launched their Kursk offensive is kind of when that started to happen. So I wonder if, the fact that Ukraine decided to launch this attack into Kursk, that it weakened the front on the east side of their nation. And this is also why we're now seeing Russia making some gains over there. So definitely going to be an interesting situation, the way the battlefield is going to change once we start to hear this offensive is underway in the south. All right, also from Euromaidan Press, frontline report, Russian military suffers devastating losses in, I'm going to struggle to pronounce, I think it's Toltsy, Lug, Kursk Oblast. 6 to 10 armored vehicles in each wave approach Ukrainian positions, leaving behind fields scattered with burning wreckage. Okay, so once again, we're hearing also up in the Kursk region, this would be on the northern side of the Kursk offensive right now, where Pogrebki is at. That's the most northern point where Ukraine is currently holding up in these hills over here. And unfortunately, I can't click on this because this will go directly over to an article. It's not really a picture, it's more of a link. But yeah, this is up in the northwestern side of the Kursk offensive right now. Looks like the Russians tried to launch another attack and they got wiped out, is kind of what we're hearing. And we definitely have been seeing a lot of that recently up in the Kursk region. And the Russians have gained some territory back, but for the most part, they are taking heavy losses, what the Ukrainians are reporting. Okay, also we have an attack to report in the city of Ternopil. Okay, it says here from Bliskovka, Russian attack on Ternopil killed 1 person, 3 people were wounded, about 100 were evacuated, SES reports. The blast wave damaged the windows of neighboring buildings, a school, and 20 cars. Psychologists continue to work at the scene, and a mobile point of invincibility for the victims has been deployed. So Ternopil is a city in western Ukraine. It's kind of very close to Lviv, actually, not too far away. Apparently we had a drone strike over here. A drone flew all the way to western Ukraine and struck an apartment building. So we got a video to show you guys. Again, it looks like 1 person has been killed, unfortunately, 3 people wounded, and a bunch of people evacuated from this apartment building. So we got a 1.5-minute long video and a few pictures to show you guys. Let's take a look at this. All right, we'll go ahead and pause it here, guys. So as we can see, major damage to this building in the city of Ternopil in western Ukraine, okay? Lots of damage to these cars as well. And we know that Russia is now attaching thermobaric warheads to these drones that are being used and fired into Ukraine. And they cause massive damage whenever they strike buildings, and they're designed to inflict major damage to anybody inside. So, you know, we can definitely see the result of this on this building. And we got some pictures here to show you guys as well. Here's some more damage outside of the building. Also, lots of cars were destroyed. Looks like some cars even caught on fire too. Just look at the amount of damage just from one drone is what looks like hit the top of this building, completely demolishing it, okay? So very unfortunate situation for the Ukrainians over here. And this is way over in western Ukraine, far away from where the battlefield is at, okay? So also from the informant, a drone strike in Tokmak and Vasilyevka in the Zaporizhzhia, that's a hard word to say too. I think it's Zaporizhzhia region, resulted in 1 death and 7 injuries. The attack hit a gas station in Tokmak, causing explosion and fire in the fuel tanks. The Ministry of Health in the area, which is partly controlled by Russia, confirmed that all victims were hospitalized and are receiving full medical care. Now, I don't know for sure if this drone attack was from Ukraine or from Russia. Considering that this area is partly controlled by Russia, it's possible it could have been Ukraine that attacked this gas station, but we'll kind of check this out as we go. I'll just kind of narrate for you guys here, but we can see a major strike on a gas station over here that was destroyed also in the Zaporizhzhia region. Okay, this is in southern Ukraine also, which obviously this is the same area where we could potentially be seeing this attack coming from Russia very soon. So, you know, very long video. I think it's like 1 minute and 10 seconds, but we can see this thing just continues to burn out. Somebody ends up driving much closer, and we can see the entire gas station just up in flames and was essentially destroyed, okay? So there definitely was some people that were hurt in this drone attack today in southern Ukraine. All right, so also from the Kyiv Independent, these are the indicative estimates of Russia's combat losses as of December 2nd, according to the Armed Forces of Ukraine. Here's a little diagram that was created to show the losses of Russian troops, and we've been seeing right around 1,500. Once again, this number going up even higher, almost 1,800 troops now being lost inside of Ukraine and the Kursk region of Russia. It's like 28 APVs, 99 vehicles and fuel tanks, 9 tanks being lost, 30 artillery systems, 83 UAVs. So much more losses being reported on the Russian side. And again, well over 1,500 troops almost every single day we've been reporting that Russia's losing, okay? And it's definitely major losses for them. All right, also from the Ukrainian Review, our army lacks the strength to take back some territories like Crimea. We do have to find diplomatic solutions, but only when we know that we are strong enough for them not to return with their aggression, according to Zelensky. Okay, so obviously we know right now that Vladimir Zelensky is really pushing hard to make Ukraine appear very strong against Russia, also to prevent any invasion coming from Russia in the future, that this could possibly happen too if Ukraine appears weak. So he's definitely focusing on that right now. So that's kind of what he was talking about during this interview. It's just 24 seconds. Take a look at this.
У нас не вистачає сил повернути Крим. Нашій армії сьогодні недостатньо сил. Так і є. Так, треба знаходити шляхи дипломатичні. Але тільки після того, коли ми знаємо, знаємо, що ми настільки сильні, що вони не повернуться знов з агресією, то можна думати про інші дипломатичні кроки. У нас не вистачає сил повернути.
All right, if you also notice here in the beginning, he talks about saying that his army lacks the strength to take back territories like Crimea. Obviously, it's something that they'd want to take back at some point, but it looks like, according to him, the only way they could potentially do that in the future is through diplomatic means. And we are starting to see Volodymyr Zelensky go this direction now in terms of diplomacy. They're definitely moving this way, and he said himself that they want to try to end this war this year in 2025. So that was a new report that just came out today. Also from Glasnost, Russia's continuing its efforts to stop Putin screaming in his Kremlin bunker. In occupied Crimea, they're strengthening defenses on the illegal Kerch Bridge and building a third tower for Panzer S-1M anti-aircraft missile systems. So here's some pictures coming out. From the Kerch Bridge showing what appears to be some towers that are being constructed, and then they put Panzer S-1M air defense systems on the top. At some point, they were just literally placing them here on the bridge in certain areas, but it looks like they started constructing some bridges to be able to do that. This kind of shows where one of these bridges or these towers were constructed next to the bridge, okay? So that way, if Ukraine tries to attack it, they could potentially shoot down any incoming missiles. And we know that Russia's definitely worried about the Kerch Bridge right now, so we've been seeing a lot of that. They're definitely beefing up protection on this bridge over the last 6 months or so. All right, also from Globi News, breaking, Russia says Donald Trump's threat to BRICS over replacing the US dollar will backfire. Okay, so we heard just from Vladimir Putin, or Donald Trump, excuse me, it was just yesterday actually, that Donald Trump reported that he would put a 100% tariff on any BRICS countries that try to move towards undermining the dollar and potentially producing this new currency that they're working on for BRICS nations. And if they try to do that, 100% tariffs will be placed on any imports that come into the United States, obviously putting any country at great risk of an economic crisis as well if they're not able to sell goods to the United States. So, yeah, it looks like we have Russia coming out and warning about this to Donald Trump and saying that this will backfire on him, that he said that. So let me know what you think down below on how that could backfire. But definitely tariffs could be good or bad, but he's saying 100% tariffs, guys. That's pretty high, okay? So very big news there. Also from Bliskovka, some people in the Biden administration are frustrated by the reluctance of the Ukrainian authorities to lower the mobilization age to 18, the Washington Post reports. According to officials, no matter what Washington does, the Ukrainian army will still be defeated by the lack of soldiers. So we've been hearing this for probably about 2 or 3 days now, that the Biden administration is trying to push Ukraine to lower their mobilization age down to 18 so they can mobilize more people. Is maybe right now in the current age category, I think it's at as low as 25. Maybe they can't mobilize as many people. But we did hear from Volodymyr Zelensky saying that the problem is not troop numbers that they need. They actually need more weapons, is what he's saying. So definitely an interesting situation over here, but this is what the Biden administration is worried about, that they will still be defeated by Russia if they lack soldiers, which is why they're pushing them to try to urge them and lower their mobilization age, okay? Also from Igor Sushko, Russia Putin regime enforces raided 3 largest Moscow nightclubs on Friday night, Simashev, Mudabor, Arma, and Mono. Many men taken to military conscription offices, women eventually released after their passports were photographed. Raids with police canines lasted for hours. So here's just some video footage that came out on Friday. I was not here that day, so maybe some of you guys haven't seen this, but there could be a few of you that do know about this. This happened on Friday night. Some of policemen were heading over to some of the nightclubs inside of Russia and were basically scrounging up whatever men they could find to conscript them and throw them into the military. And apparently they also came with some paddy wagons to pick people up and take them out of these nightclubs. This shows that it looks like the nightclub was completely shut down here, and they were trying to find any men that they could get to get them and throw them into the military. So there was actually an update regarding this that I wanted to show you guys. This just came out today from Igor Sushko. Update: the men taken away during nightclub raids on Friday night in Moscow were issued military summonses on the spot. they were to appear at conscription offices today on Monday. Okay, so that's today, literally today on December 2nd, 2024. That these men were issued military summonses and were required to appear at conscription offices today and sign up for the military. And it looks like they're going to be heading to the front. Okay, so this also shows the desperation from Russia as they're trying to scrounge up whoever they can find, literally going to nightclubs and grab people up and send them over to the front line. Okay, so pretty crazy to see that in Russia. That's starting to happen now as well. Glasnost gone. Food prices continue to rise ever upwards in Russia. This time, the soaring price of mayonnaise is causing the Kremlin serious grief. Russian authorities talking with the leading supermarkets again on price controls ahead of the end of the year holiday season. Okay, so we've been talking a lot about Russia's their economy and certain goods that you buy in the store, especially like butter. Recently, they've had to put butter in literally anti-theft boxes to prevent them from being stolen in the grocery stores. And it looks like mayonnaise is the next thing that's taken a major hit. So lots of grocery items inside of Russia are now becoming unaffordable for many people. So that's definitely showing as well that their economy is falling apart and inflation is definitely taking a major hold, okay? Also from Glasnost gone, thanks to Putin's war in Ukraine, Russians will have to pay more for their love of Western cars and domestic-produced vehicles masquerading as cars. Prices for new cars expected to rise by 5 to 15% by year-end due to the fall of the ruble against the dollar, euro, and China's yuan. All right, so 5 to 15% rise in cars as well, new car purchases inside of Russia. That's got to be pretty tough on the people there living there as well. If they want to buy a car, 5 to 15% could be thousands of dollars in extra cost just to buy a car. This is also due to Russia's collapse in their ruble. Okay, their ruble has been collapsing over the past couple weeks due to sanctions that were placed on Russia's banks over there by the West. So definitely a major issue for Russia in terms of their economy at the moment also. Okay, also from Max 24, 31 Shahed UAVs entered Belarus overnight, some repeatedly, according to Belaruski Gayun. Okay, so we've been seeing a lot of this as well. Lots of drones coming from Ukraine that all of a sudden turn back around and fly back into Belarus. These originally came from Russia, and it looks like 31 Shahed drones last night entered into Belarus. And we've been hearing that Ukraine also uses a new type of electronic warfare called spoofing, where they can change the coordinates on these drones once they start to come into Ukrainian territory, and they'll whip back around and head back to Belarus. And Belarus has been having a headache over this recently. So 31 drones last night in Belarus. Also from Max 24, Kremlin is preparing officials to end the war in Ukraine. Kommersant citing sources. Putin's administration has begun to form an image of victory, which they should convey to the population. It is expected that the future results of the war will represent both a victory, but they are unlikely to satisfy both ultra-patriots and liberals. The Kremlin plans to rely on the calm majority, which they must convince with the achievements of denazification and demilitarization and the annexation of 4 Ukrainian regions. Okay, so it looks like the Russians are preparing for this war to come to an end, and they're trying to create an image of victory. Make it appear as if they've won the battle is kind of what this report is talking about. There were multiple like smaller Russian news agencies that were covering this topic, that the Kremlin is reportedly preparing for this. So it looks like they're going to come up with some method to try to prove to the population that they have achieved all their war goals inside of Ukraine. So it doesn't look like a colossal failure, but we'll see what happens here in the coming months, okay? Also from Max 24, Ukraine has strike drones with a 1,800 kilometer long range capabilities. And in 2025, we will see the first applications of drone swarms, according to Mikhailo Fedorov. So Fedorov is a Ukrainian politician, and it says here work is also underway to create drones to destroy long-range drones such as Shahed, he added. So here's a little diagram to show you the different drones capabilities that Ukraine currently has. But the main portion of this information talks about the application of drone swarms, okay, with longer range drones, 1,800 kilometer long range capabilities, okay, meaning they'll be able to launch major drone attacks in 2025, assuming that this war carries on during that time. And they'll be able to do that with longer range drones, not just shorter range like, 500 kilometers, 600 kilometers. They'll be able to go up to 1,500, 1,800 kilometers deep into Russia with major drone swarms is kind of what they're talking about here. Okay, finally, one last thing to show you guys. I thought this was pretty crazy information, but also not surprising. It says Anton Gerashenko, Russia is recruiting citizens of Myanmar and Laos to participate in the war against Ukraine. Defense ministries of Russia and Myanmar signed an agreement on military cooperation back in 2016. Groups of Laotians arrive in Russia for training as part of the Laos 2024 exercises, and then they are sent to Ukraine. So here's apparently some pictures coming out from Russia as well, which shows either Myanmar or Laos citizens who have been recruited to go fight inside of Ukraine as well. We've also seen this, obviously, with the North Koreans. They've been brought over to fight inside of Ukraine. And then also, even potentially, the Yemen Houthis has been reported that some of their fighters have been sent over to Russia to train and also fight in Ukraine as well. So looks like so many countries at this point are just involved in this war, I guess on either side, right? But definitely on the Russian side, we're seeing more and more pictures, videos coming out showing what appears to be other countries getting involved, especially in Asia. Okay, so very big news coming out from there. And yeah, that's going to be it for today, though, guys. I want to thank you so much for tuning in for today's update. And if you got something out of this, please smash that like button. And also, if you enjoy my content, please consider subscribing down below. Hit the notification bell. That way YouTube can notify you with that. Hope you all have a great day. Everybody take care and God bless. And we'll see you in the next one.